Hey guys, Matt here, co-founder of Coldlytics. Really excited to share with you some really simple strategies to find young and growing companies in your area as new clients for your accounting firm. One of the toughest parts in finding new clients is first and foremost identifying who might be a good prospect for you. And any new and established business, of course, has the hurdles that come with bookkeeping and administrative work and their yearly accounts. And so one of the ways that we help companies source new leads based on this pain point is through local geographic targeting. And it's really, really easy to do this. Anybody can do this. You don't have to have any past skill in this field at all. And I'm going to show you how simple it can be. So let's start out by, we're actually going to go, and you can follow along if you'd like while I do this and just listen. Let's go to maps.google.com. Okay, and when we do this, this is bringing up the local city that I'm from here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm over here in Canada today, and this is my hometown that you're looking at. Now, if I were an accounting firm here and I wanted to find small businesses in specific niches, I would simply come to Google Maps and try to identify them here. Because what this tells me is that if somebody has registered their business on Google, it means they are forward thinking, they are taking deliberate actions to improve their business, and they are somewhat tech enabled, which is a huge advantage for accounting firms, which means the gap between you explaining the advantages of the softwares you use and the systems that you follow and the automations you can create to streamline things for them will translate a lot quicker to these companies, opposed to people who want to drop off bucket loads of receipts and paper invoices and the old-fashioned way of doing business, which is still worthwhile for many companies, but it's a dying thing. And there's new companies that need somebody to step in and say, hey, you don't have to do this yourself. You don't have to do this once a year and have a total nightmare. You can have somebody jump in and help. Now, the reason we're talking about being niche specific isn't just for fun. It isn't just for practical sake in a Google search. What it really comes back to is being able to identify common ground and talk to this person in their own language, because the way that you're going to talk to a mechanic's garage is very different from the way that you're going to talk to a chiropractic office, right? The way that you're going to communicate with the owner of the blue collar business is going to be much more direct, to the point, down to brass tacks. And the chiropractic office wants somebody professional and more formal and just emanating more of that common ground with them than you're going to see with a tradesperson. So let's jump in and we'll use automotive service in Fredericton. So all I'm doing is I'm searching the niche and then in the city, right? Automotive service in Fredericton. Perfect. Look at all these businesses. Now, just for context, so you guys can compare this to where you're from. I'm in a city of about 50,000 people. There's not a lot of people here. It's a relatively small area, but there is a whole ton of these service shops that are all owned by somebody, right? Somebody owns all these. And then we're probably 50% of this town is employed in kind of blue collar, if it's not government or military. So if we zoom out and if we were to search further, like I could come over here and search in Millville and Stanley and Chipman and Minto, and all these areas are relevant and they still respect business that is executed in Fredericton as probably something that's perhaps even more established and reliable than something in their local rural area. So you can begin to branch out very quickly. But let's focus on our local area for now, automotive service in Fredericton. What we have here is a list of all of these businesses that are popping up. And so we know this is local business, it's reliable, you can see they have reviews. This is wonderful. Imagine if you could talk to each of the owners of these businesses and say, hey guys, we actually specialize in automotive service, bookkeeping, and accounting. And we have tax advantages for you that generic accountants may overlook because they don't quite understand the operating efficiencies that can be found through somebody who knows your business like we do. Great. Imagine getting that email as a business owner that just got their tax bill and said, geez, man, I hate paying all this money to tax, but I don't understand if there's anything I can do about it. And you can come in and say, and this is going to resonate more with the blue collar business, which is more my background. So that's why I'm speaking to tax efficiency as perhaps an angle that you would take. Nonetheless, you as a business owner know your own business and you know what sells within your own businesses. So just apply what already works for you and take it into this digital format that's really easy to get somewhere with. So we've identified businesses. How do we then take these businesses and sell to them. All right, let's keep going here. We're going to copy this link and we're going to jump back over to Coldlytics. And we're going to log into your new account. If you don't have an account yet, go ahead and log in and create one. And you guys can actually get our 25 credit trial for just $1. So you can try this out for next to no cost at all. We just have that in place to prevent spam and abusive patterns. So let's go into new task. So we're just to slow down for a second, this is the dashboard. This is how it looks when you have ran tasks in the past. And a task is just a request from Coldlytics to get you a contact list out of a particular place. So in this case, I'm just going to set this to 50. Maybe I only want a list of 50 people. One contact per company is fine. And I'm going to jump down here to this filter, which is seniority level. And I want to talk to the owners or founders of these local shops. That's what I want. I'd even be open to a director. If we can't find an owner, a director's fine too. We're only going to give one contact per company. And I don't have to define any of these other things because we already did that here. We know we're looking at a specific area of a Google search. And I'm just going to copy that link and go down to data sources under Google Maps, paste it in here. Perfect. So the next thing we're going to do is go to the next screen. This is where we define the data points of how we want to reach out to them. So you may say, hey, Coldlytics, I'm actually really good on the phone. It's cool that you guys are talking about email a lot, but what about us guys that have been doing cold calling since, the 70s? Like we've got experience on the phones. We're going to do better that way. Not opposed to trying something new, but I'd much rather sell by phone. How does that work? No problem. Come in here, scroll down and click on phone number. This is the main business switchboard line. If you want to try and get the direct dial, we can even try and search that. And what's a direct dial? People often ask. Well, a direct dial is a direct line. So if there's an extension to a specific desk or a mobile number that's associated with the business, not a consumer number, but the number associated with the business for that individual, in this case, an owner, then we'll add that as well. So direct dials add an additional credit. It's the only time we charge an additional fee because the research process for this is basically we're doing twice the amount of manual effort on the back end. And I'll explain how all that works in just a moment to you. So there's many data points that you can add here. Perhaps you're big on LinkedIn or you have a good following there. There's different things that you can do to try and reach out. But at a base level, you'll always have the first and last name of the individual, the company that they work for or own, their job title there, their email address, and their website. And then you can add other things as needed, guys, to help you in your outreach. Let's jump back over to the next screen. And on the third step, all we do is just give this a name. So we will just call this, we'll call this Auto Shops Fredericton. And we'll hit Start Task. And then when you launch this task, this is what happens. It's going to automatically generate a Google Sheet where we begin our research from. So the first step, guys, is this. There's the automated component that receives your information and all the criteria, and all of that's placed on a spreadsheet. But then what happens is our fulfillment manager then gets a notification, and they take this and they begin running custom web scrapers that we have built in-house to source this data off the web. So they will begin by scraping all of this information down, making sure that the websites, if available, are actually relevant. So if we get there and it's rather than it being an automotive service shop, it's, I don't know, a manufacturer or some other type of business, then we won't include that on the list. So all of this is happening as the first stage to pull down a bunch of companies that we identify as relevant targets for the niche you're working in. Then what we do is we step back a second and we say, okay, now that we have a good list of potential companies for us to sell our services to, now we need to identify the individuals in that process. So we then pass it on to the human researcher. And that researcher is a member of our team that we assign it to specifically based on the skills they have and what type of research they've done before. So if we know that they can, Bob on our team is particularly better at getting blue collar business data and small local business data, and Jim is better at finding Fortune 500 data, then obviously we're not going to give this to Jim, we're going to give it to Bob. And so that's another edge that you're getting through Coldlytics is you're getting a real human person to go out and say, okay, now we need to identify who Mr. and Mrs. Jones are that own this business and what Mr. and Mrs. Jones' phone numbers are so we can give this to the client for you to call. So that's how the process works. There's the upfront automated portion and then the human research portion. And then when a list comes back to you completed, I'll go back through. This is my demo account, so I'll find one that I think was completed here. I usually stop them after I do a recording. Here's an example of a list that was completed. This is what it looks like. So we have Aaron Fredericks here. He's the owner of East Coast Pizza. Very cool. And all of these bits of information are here as available. Now, you see the highlighting on this. What does that mean? So yellow just means we couldn't confirm when we tried to test if this email address will actually receive the mail we send it or not. So if it bounces when you email them, you can just ping us on our web chat and say, hey guys, I paid for this contact, but I actually couldn't reach them. No problem. We'll just credit it back to your account. You can use that. White means that it came back, or just unformatted, came back as a valid email address, and it is deliverable. Red means that it bounced back when we ran our test. So when it bounces back, we still include the information, so you can still take advantage of that in other ways, but we don't charge you for it. We put the credit back in your account for everything that came back as invalid. So this is how the process works. You would then take this bit of information and write these people an email. So if there's 20 automotive shops in your local area, write each one of those 20 people an email. You don't have to do anything overly complicated when you're new to this space. Just get your feet wet, step in with both feet, and take action. And it's honestly, I tell people this every day. It is better to do something wrong and learn how to make it right than it is to never try it at all. And if you're a business owner or a decision maker in a business, you know the value of that firsthand, because those in your company and those who you've worked with around you that aren't willing to get out of that comfort zone that they're in and take that step when somebody shows them, especially if you've worked with a consultant, this is a common thing that people run into, is it's hard to get past the mental barrier of doing something you haven't done before. But at the end of the day, Courtney here at Greco, or Gilly or Greg or whoever these people may be, these are people that simply do not know about your service, most likely. And the only way they're going to find out is if somebody tells them. And you can either sit back passively and wait for that to happen, or you can introduce yourself to that individual. So I hope this gives you guys some clarification on how the process works. But beyond that, what you can do to easily get in front of your ideal customers, present your service offering that's already proven to sell elsewhere, and begin selling it through a new channel here through cold email or cold calling and direct outreach to new people. Thanks for watching.